For all of us who has the inner side of being an entrepreneur and seeing a gap in the healthcare space, to know that we have to do something about it. That means creating a true solution, creating a movement, creating that community that help you to push that movement forward. And that journey doesn't just start on a blank spot. You can actually leverage a lot of your resources. But one of the major questions is always going to be, who's going to fund this? And many daring hearts has been pouring their own soul, time, money investment into it. And many people are bootstrapping. But we know cash can burn really quickly when you're in that innovative space. So how can we really leverage the right resources, the right methods to continue growing? Well, we have the financial backend. So today, we're so excited to have Rupak here with us and to talk about his technology and his journey in how do we support each other in this specific field. So thank you so much for joining us, and tell us a bit more about how did you discover the challenges in our space and why develop your specific fintech solution?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for inviting me here. So about 5 years ago, when we were thinking about starting a company, we kind of were going back to our experiences, my co-founder and myself, into like what we have seen out there, and talking to a lot of different startup founders who were at the very early grassroots stages. What we realized is that they all had really amazing ideas, and they all were trying to go to VCs and angels and all these places to try and convince them of money. And those folks used to tell them, look, you're really early, you have a good idea, but you haven't really shown me that there's some merit to the idea, like some proof, some sort of traction, right? And the founders are like, yeah, but I need the money to even do that initial bit of work. So where am I going to get that from? And then those guys say, go ask your friends and family. And these folks are like, oh, okay, we try. And then they just do that. And then obviously your aunt is not going to believe you when you say you have this new thing to cure cancer, right? We're like, yeah, right, sure, you'll cure cancer. It doesn't work in sort of deep technologies and health tech sort of spaces, right? Where there's a lot of risk involved. And the success of your solution might not entirely always depend on how good your product is. There's a lot of other market risks involved in this sort of an industry because highly regulated, right? And so what we realized is that there's actually a government program that's available to fund and de-risk that initial stage of technology development when it comes to healthcare. It also exists for other industries, but almost half of it exists for healthcare, right? Because one of the biggest problems that we have in the world, especially here in the US. And so when we found the program, then we went back to the founders and we started asking them, why aren't you taking more benefit from this program? And they were like, oh, it's all government stuff. It's all very, confusing, and it's very difficult to follow. And if you ask for help outside with consultants, it's very expensive. And so we were like, okay, this seems like an opportunity where if we created something that was kind of like TurboTax, that you don't have to go to a CPA all at once and spend a lot of money. You can try and do a lot of it yourself if you had a tool to help you through the process. And then maybe at the end of it, you can get someone to come in and do a sanity check on your entire proposal to make sure everything looks right and it's up to quality and all that. And maybe that's like an affordable way of getting access to this money, this program from the government. And so we created that, the TurboTax of this world. And so that was the idea. So we created this product, and ultimately we are now almost 5 years into the company, and have helped hundreds and hundreds of companies go through. So very, very happy about that it worked.
Oh yeah, everything is first, hey, it works, right? And then we have the novelty idea of you don't have to beg all of everybody just to get something. And then sometimes most of our families are not business savvy, and a lot of them don't have just a lump sum of thousands of dollars aside just to invest in any new idea, right? And then some people don't really understand how to even produce multiple streaming income. So for people just to take money out and then go into this completely new thing, and some of these unicorn solutions are even harder to prove the validation if this can be something. And it's definitely challenging. And
Yeah.
even for us at my consultancy, we are a whole fractional board advisors. So we don't just go into the new company, be like, hey, we're going to help you scale. You have to prove that you have done something, have some kind of company infrastructure, have tested out in some way to say, okay, now you have a basic thing for us to do something about, right? So just like the investors, people needed to see some basic proof.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the struggle is always, well, it's such a new field, it's such a new solution. There's no proof, even just in general, we're creating it. So to help people to do that, I think is very crucial on really tapping into what that true mission and true gap and drive is. And for you guys to come in to say, hey, there's a lot of government entities that will be able to take on some of the higher risk, the earlier stage of
Exactly.
companies. So how about we help you to match the existing loans, portfolios, and whatnot? So are these government entities, they work as a part of a typical investment profile, where it look like more like a loans that people have to pay back? How does that usually work?
Actually, neither. So the great thing about this program is that it is not a loan, first of all, so you don't have to pay it back. And it is actually not an investment, an equity investment, so they don't, participate in your cap table either. So the government has no interest in getting equity and stocks in your company, and of course, so their mission really is to foster new technology development, because they have realized that some of the biggest, scientific, principle based companies have become some of the biggest employers in the country, right? The Googles, the Apples, and all that. And so they want to basically double down on that concept to create economic growth. And so this program ultimately is meant to create successful companies that can employ more people eventually. And so there's a lot of focus on things like manufacturing, if you can get there. There's a lot from energy, right? There's a lot of focus on grow your team in-house as opposed to outsourcing everything outside the country, where the government is there to provide you the help so that you can grow your company initially without having to raise this risky investment money from people who might not actually be able to invest in you because of the high risk. And so they come in and they are helping you de-risk your idea, so that then you're actually ready to go out and raise the investor money to scale. And then they hope that you scale with the US in mind, so that you continue, fostering the ecosystem here. So that's the idea. That's the mission of this program. So it's completely quote unquote free money, right? You don't pay it back. You don't give out any stocks. You use up the money to build your product, de-risk it, and then go out and raise money from investors and whoever else. Or a lot of companies who win these grants, they don't go out and raise any money afterwards. They just generate the product, they develop the product that starts generating revenue. And so once you're revenue generating, you become cash flow positive quickly if you're very mindful of your expenses and stuff like that. So that's the hope that they have.
Exactly. It's always that once you get that initial traction, then you can decide, do I need to take on larger investors because XYZ, right? Most people come to us, it's always like, we're having the traction now, we're having leads coming in every month, but do I need to raise the next round of funding just so we can have enough people or
Yeah.
cash flow to deliver the services or the product that we're in, versus the other way around? Do I need to have more cash flow just to put more money into my marketing and sales strategies so we can have more inflow as we keep scaling up, right? And it's giving people now the option, that initial push to get you to that point of early traction stage, so you can have the power to make the decision to say, which direction do you want it to go, and to see, especially what you're pointing out, the government want to create more economic entities within the country instead of a lot of push now. Outsourcing is always thinking about the doer level, the virtual assistant level, the tech people that's outside the country, that's supposed to be cheaper, more manageable. But we're not saying, actually, probably your first in outsourcing should be the high level, right? You need to have a company infrastructure, high level strategy, so you know what to do next.
Yeah.
And this is coming from that top down, which we see that's ultimately what people have to focus on, building the business and not the getting so nitty gritty to on the doing thing, and then sometimes they're so proud about pulling 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then they're only burning themselves out without even getting to the traction state. So
Yeah.
love that idea. So I know a lot of people in that early stage are going to want to hear about this. How have you guys been able to go to market? What are some of the strategies to get the right people to hear about you guys? Has that been partnering with other ventures so they can refer back, or accelerator? How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So once we figured out that our market, our target audience was founders who have ideas but haven't yet been able to get traction, initially, at least that was our market. We basically went out to all the places where these sorts of people flock to, which is incubators, accelerators, universities, right? All these places that they go to for help, right? Initially. And so when we went there, all these incubators were like, oh, yeah, we get them 10 times a day, and I don't know what to do or what to help or how to help or whatever. And we're like, oh, well, we're here. So we'll help them out, no problem. And so that's kind of how we started our go to market. And that was very organic and very partnership driven. And then since then, we've scaled a lot more through email, through ads, through other kinds of channels that are a lot more scalable. And now a lot more people know us. And so the organic, traction is coming more easily. But initially, the go to market was very hands on, creating lots of those unique partnerships and building trust with those partners, right? That when they send us folks, we do a good job with their folks, if it's meaningful, realistic, stuff like that. And also setting some expectations that they don't have, where if the referral comes to us and are disappointed, then the folks actually understand like what was the mismatched expectation and stuff like that, right? Because you can only do so much when you're a smaller company, right? And so that's kind of how you nurture that throughout time. And then slowly, once you start growing, there will be more bandwidth to do more scalable and longer and larger term marketing, like open ads and sponsorships and going to events and stuff like that. But that's not how we started. So.
Right, which is a great point, because I believe Harvard Business School put out a study that showed referral partnership convert 3 times higher than any other marketing strategy. And that's always something that I'm very keenly on, is that when you have the community, when you understand how to build that community, it becomes a very collective and supportive environment to see how are you helping a similar or different level of people, company, but with different angles. So then everyone start filling each other's gap, and then you can quickly expand together instead of everyone going through the same strategy independently. Then you become a competitive landscape instead of that collaborative landscape.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, there's just a lot of complementarity that people miss out on, just because they think that they can do everything. Everyone can do everything, right? So that's why like we focus really heavily on this is exactly what we do and how we do it. You have an idea of what you guys do. Let's try and figure out some boundaries of where we can actually complement each other, where 1+1 becomes 3, right?
Exactly. And then sometimes the 1 + 1 is 11, right? It really can square root that amplification.
I'll keep my expectations in check. Ultimately, you're dealing with people, so.
Right. Yes. Ultimately, we're dealing with people. I think that's what most VC, private equity, when they're doing due diligence, they're missing out on that specific side, is that when they're evaluating a company, they're looking at the past 2 years of traction and basic business foundation and the plan. And then we're like, actually, just because they have the perfect model, perfect strategy, the type of people in their company, especially the decision makers, they're strategy for life, right? And then if they don't have the right people, it doesn't matter how much money you're investing into that individual company, they're never going to take off. And so we definitely believe in that crucial part of saying, hey, there's also a thing called human capital. There's also a thing called social capital. There's also a thing called culture capital. If they don't have the right decision makers up top as founders or executives, they're going to bottleneck themselves. If they don't know how to create community with their social network, And that simply just, oh, I'm going to speak, I'm going to do a networking event, but there's no follow-up, then people feel like they're takers and not givers, right? And then ultimately it's that culture. How are you create a dynamic movements, what you're creating a drive for, and not just this is the solution, how people use it, but it's a what's the end goal to create that amplification, that create that impact in the healthcare space, right? And then that also need to take into consideration when people doing due diligence from an investing portfolio and individual founders when you're creating is that, yes, you need to get funding, and OmniSync can help you to get started. Now, when you get started, you also have to think about how you're building that team. Who are your co-partners that will continue to work with you, and how each individual's purpose can align, not just, oh, this is a good idea. But if they're not truly aligned, then that's how we see failure, right? People start
Well,
moving apart. And then
absolutely. I mean, this money that is available from the government, you have to prove that you have all the plans in place to be able to attract the right team. You have to show that team on paper that the team is capable of executing what you're proposing, right? Has the right background and all that stuff. You have to show your entire plan to the T, in terms of like how every step is going to be accomplished, what like barriers you might face, how you'll mitigate risk. All that stuff is meant to be in there. Only then, if it's actually reviewed right and it's bottled tight, that's when you will actually end up getting the money. So it's not easy. Like I will make no simplifications here. Of it's not like, oh, you go tell the government what you want and they'll give you the money. That's not how that works, right? You really have to be in it for the right reasons, and for a long term to be able to pull this off properly, right? And when you talked about the due diligence part of it, so actually the best VC firms, they will not invest in your company before talking to some of your people and especially some of your customers. Like they, at least the ones that we had, that was one of the prerequisites that they had to talk to other people, and not just me, right? And they asked for customer information. They went and looked up our things online and all that. It's not that, and you want that kind of a VC or an angel who cares that much about their money, right? Put their money being into you. You don't want, at least in the early stages, the investors who'll just send you a check and forget about you. They're not helpful. Just, I mean, yes, the money looks good. You need even more help once you get the money. The actual work starts after you get the money. If people have this misconception that there's so much difficulty or whatever trying to get to like successfully closing a round, they have no idea how much work starts after you get the money. But at least then you have justification to do the work, right? Then you have the support to do the work.
Exactly. We needed to care about each other in that partnership. And it doesn't matter if initially it might seems like I just needed some money to get started. But as you start expand and grow, you want people who are not just giving you money, because we know even with VC backend, 20% of company have no return on investment, right? So it's not just about getting funding, it's what you do with the money, with a solid plan that has a critical workflow and infrastructure. That's how you can actually get to the point that you wanted to go to. And then that really default back on the resources you have. How do you leverage these higher level of strategic growth? And those people might come to you as a fractional VP of something, but that's okay, right? And sometimes it's hard for some of those companies to say, oh, I can fill my whole board, when they're like tie rope on which one to pick. And then for you guys, are you helping these companies to fill out the exact application and do the due diligence for them to be able to apply? How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we're Cradle to Grave as a service. We include a product in there that helps a lot in terms of for the founders doing a lot of the work themselves. That's how we like reduce our cost, right, for the founders to make it affordable. And then we have a team that basically consults them, expertise that guides them through the process, writers who will help polish your material, all that stuff, including quality control at the end to make sure like you're not missing something, or you didn't do something wrong, or you didn't like just forget to do something or anything like that, to make sure that what you put in as an application is compliant as well as high quality, and you didn't break the bank trying to put it together. That's the goal, and we do that repeatedly, multiple times for multiple companies, because at the end of the day, it's like when you're trying to apply for a college, you don't apply for one and sit back and relax, right? You try as hard as you can for multiple things. If you're like at least if you have your boots on the ground, I think that's important. And that's it at the like it's of course every application, the quality matters a ton, but what matters even more than that is just the rigor of and the rigor of doing it and the diligence of doing it, like multiple times, not like just getting disappointed when you get a bad result or something like that, because the government also helps you by giving you feedback in a lot of detail on what might have been missing, or what might have not seemed correct or whatever, so you can continue improving. Like, we've seen people and startup founders try one, fail, and leave because they got disappointed. And we've seen folks that basically tried 3-4 times very diligently, making improvements every single time, and finally they won and they're off to the races, and they're more happy than anybody else, because they're like, throughout that process they learned so much and had such great solidification of the idea and concepts and stuff like that, that helped them actually build a better company than they would have built if they hadn't gone through that process. So, like, how problems help you, like, when you solve a problem, it helps you actually get experience in that. This process really, really helps you do that very well throughout the years.
Yeah, what I can see from really going through any type of due diligence or application is that you actually apply your value proposition into it. So you applying your marketing skills into it on how you express what you truly are solving for, what type of people, and what gaining of the end result. And so then you can have that not so involved internal team, right? Because when you're so into it, you don't know what you're missing out or what doesn't sound right. Now you have these external body that have seen different startup, hundreds and hundreds of them,
Right.
to give you feedback. And then it's also the business model. They will already see many different things to see what's viable, what's not viable, to go through that process. Now, I think definitely we believe the same thing, right? Why hire an external consulting team for many of, if you think about the Deloitte, the McKessons, right? It's because when you're so in it, doesn't matter how small or big your company is, you just can't see what you can't see. So having even just go through it, and adding to your point of resiliency in that process of not just simply giving up, you have to trust yourself and trust that your product has to be able to become a validated solution. And if you don't do this, that will delay the big goal that you're pushing through. So be persistent, be resilient, and be able to try more and take action, so you can actually become that market leader, and knowing that if you don't do it, would other people do it better than you, right? And if it's no, then you really have to push forward. Okay, amazing. I know we can definitely talk more about this. How can people find out more? Is there a testing platform that they can log in, or is that usually people needed to schedule a call with you guys to get started? How does that work?
Yeah, all of those options are available. We have a free plan that people can go in and search for opportunities using keywords and stuff and find them. And then if they're interested, we even give you the link that has materials and information if you want to try applying yourself. So no cost at all. And that's available on turbospir.com. So that's Turbo, and then SBIR, that's Small Business Innovation Research, SBIR. So turbospir.com. And on there also, there is a way that you can get on a call with us for no cost as well. And our team is very good at helping you identify whether you're ready in terms of the stage to start going through this process, or you might need some time. So we run free webinars every month. We send out information about opportunities every month, all for free. So as long as you create an account with us, you are in our ecosystem of opportunities always. And so whenever you feel you're ready, and our team can guide you on when to get ready for it, then again, you can either just pay for the software and use the software alone and do it yourself, or you can get additional help from folks on our team who can help guide you in addition to using the software and stuff like that. And there's various levels and tiers depending on how much time, effort, help that you might want from like, our team and stuff. So yeah, and we're very easy to find on LinkedIn and all the places online. So yeah, just Google OmniSync or Turbo SPR or my name or whatever. You should be able to find us pretty easily.
Perfect. I so appreciate your time to explore this area for people. And we will see everyone next time. Have a good day.
Thank you.